Welcome to the Wizard of Radical Self-Respect. My name's Jared Mello, and today I'm going to go over my good friend Sadia Khan. Now, I already called her out about 10 months ago now. I have a video titled Sadia Khan, the Queen of Darvo, Gaslighting, and Victim Blaming, and I had a bad feeling about her then, and rightfully so, as we're about to find out here. Now, what got brought to my attention was this guy at GoobU2 on Instagram. He called her out for using some sort of filter on one of her videos. I don't really care about that. But her reaction to this was very telling. And what do I always say when it comes to narcissistic people? Pay attention to how they react if you disagree with them or you call them out. Their reaction will be very telling. And Sadia's reaction was extremely telling to all of this because she absolutely loses it. And it just proves the point that she is basically grifting and she has poor character. And you're going to see the poor character in how she treats some of the people in her comment section here. But she charges $8,000 an hour. Now, I don't really care what people charge, but she's teaching men how to be high value. Meanwhile, the scandal about her is she's a proud side chick, and she called the fiance of the guy that she's sleeping with, and she told her, oh, I could S his D whenever I want. And basically, she's just acting trashy. But let's go over some of the things here that she's doing that I think are problematic. There we go. So she says, my ex is a narcissist is code for I have such a low self-esteem that I would rather be with someone who mistreats me than simply be single. And this entire thing right here just misunderstands what is going on. One, people don't know what they don't know when they're in a relationship with a narcissist. A lot of times they had a narcissistic parent and they were conditioned to assume the behaviors of a narcissist are like love. Like that's what they expect love to be like. And they can develop CPTSD in those cases as well. So when she says this, it's just really ignorant. And it shows that she doesn't really care about the victims of narcissistic abuse in any way. She's basically blaming them and saying, yep, you guys just suck. And this is something I've seen a lot of narcissistic people do. They love trying to find a way to make it seem like the victim is the one with the problem. There has to be something wrong with them. They don't want to talk about the narcissist and their behaviors at all. They give the narcissist a complete free pass. They don't call out their abuse in any way. They go straight to being antagonistic, belittling, and condescending to the victims. And that's exactly what she's done here. She doesn't say anything about the narcissist, but goes straight to, oh, you must have such low self-esteem that you would rather be with someone who mistreats you than simply being single. Meanwhile, she's got low self-esteem, such low self-esteem that she's gonna be the side chick. I didn't realize that high-value women were a side chick. Did you? I didn't realize that, but apparently they are. And then they charge $8,000 an hour for their services. What do you know? Interesting, Sadia Khan. So she's doing what I would consider the narcissistic playbook. Now, I'm not diagnosing her with anything. I'm not a licensed professional in any way. I use the word narcissistic as a descriptive adjective because her behaviors fit that. And you're going to see why. So let's see what else she has to say. And this happened on the same comment. The key word is X. You built so much of your following off of narcissistic content. What does that say about you? Building your survivors just to bring them down, which is a heinous insult? Sounds pretty narky to me. And Sadia says, means I'm a narcissist? She's admitting it. I called her out on that 10 months ago. And I'm glad I'm one. Better than being a pathetic victim. So if something's going to sum up Sadia, that's it right there. That sums up what she's all about. She doesn't care. She would rather be a narcissist. She would rather be a grifter. She would rather get her bag than ever try to actually help people. It's all about her. And that's what I've sensed about her all along. She's got an inauthentic air about her. There's a bad vibe. There's something inauthentic and grifty about her. And all of this stuff basically proves it. And again, two things can be true at the same time. There are things that victims can learn down the line, but the way she's addressing this is just with zero empathy and zero compassion and extreme selfishness. That's ultimately the problem. And it's pretty much blaming the victims as well. She's being abusive about it. And it's really just absurd. But this is what you see on the inside of her. Someone calls her out, someone disagrees with her. You see what's on the inside. And what's on the inside is she doesn't care. She doesn't want to be a pathetic victim. She thinks those of you who have been abused by a narcissist are pathetic. You're pathetic for not knowing what you didn't know. You're pathetic that you were born into a family that had a narcissistic parent that conditioned you to associate the behaviors of a narcissist with love. Oh, if that was you, Sadia Khan thinks you're pathetic. How does that make you feel? But it goes to show you she does not give a hoot. And granted, you're also going to see some of her flying monkeys float in as well because they're subscribed to her distorted version of reality. They're basically enabling her, and they'll attack the people that attack their guru. And they'll say, what are your credentials, Jared? What about this? What about that? And they'll say, oh, you shouldn't really care. You shouldn't really care what she says. Or winners are going to be too busy focusing on their own life. And it's like, you know what? That's that toxic positivity nonsense, because bad things happen when people don't speak up. All sorts of atrocities and ridiculous things occur when people don't speak their mind and call that kind of thing out. So whenever you hear one of those toxic positivity folks say that, they're basically saying, I don't care if people mistreat and abuse others. I'm going to do my own thing. I don't care about that. Ellie, how are you? And that's what they're saying. That's what they're communicating with their actions. And I'll agree. There's times for putting your head down and minding your own business. And then there's times for speaking up. And when someone's going to talk this way about victims like she is, that's the time to speak up. I don't have any time for that. I'll call that out all day, every day, as I have. And I think before what she was doing was something similar to this. It wasn't this severe, but it was something similar enough so that I had a bad sense about it. And so I said something about it then. And that was 10 months ago. But this all happened within the last 4 or 5 days here. No, that's no good, Ellie. And I also wanted to show you all this here. So someone said they didn't like the fact that she charges $8,000 an hour. And so the person said, sorry, but I agree with that girl, especially when it comes to a profession like yours, just giving my opinion. But yes, ultimately, it's your decision. And granted, that's a very respectful way to say something, right? She doesn't like her prices. I think that's a pretty respectful thing to say. She wasn't rude about it. She wasn't antagonistic. She just said she agreed with the other person. And Sadia says, because you're a brokey and entitled. So I asked someone who gives endless free advice and is incredibly popular online, feelings of superiority and grandiosity, to lower my prices so broke people like yourself can endlessly book me and have no time off. And granted, what do I always say about narcissistic people? They always relate things to the hierarchy they find most valuable. And when you can learn a lot about somebody by how they try to insult you. So she constantly says brokey, which means she really values money. She values status. She values money. And so she's doing what they call the grandiose omnipotent defense, which is I'm going to be grandiose in a way that diminishes and belittles you simultaneously. That's what that is. You're a broke tramp. Go stick to somebody on your level. Angela, how are you? Entitled, ungrateful, and broke. Stop taking things for free and then expecting more discount. You absolutely tramp. And this is your mental health professional here. This is the person that marketed herself as a psychologist on people like Chris Williamson's show, Soft White Underbelly, Lewis Howes, She might have even been on Diary of a CEO. There was nowhere she wasn't for a while. And this is how she treats people as someone who's supposed to be a helper? Completely absurd, if you ask me. And it just goes to show you her character. Like, again, I don't really care if she uses a filter or not. I don't care about that. I care about this. I care about how she treats people. I care about how she treats people that have been abused that just didn't realize what was going on. That's what I care about. And then she goes on to say, and the woman says, correctly, I should freaking... just so you can read it better. You don't speak like you do on your videos. There was no need to be angry or disrespectful. I never said it should be free, but I felt £550 for an hour session is too much. She's raised her prices since then. But again, it's your life, your profession. I just shared an opinion. This wasn't just about you, but about mental health in general. Health issues don't care whether you're rich or broke. And verbally abusing like this isn't apt for a psychologist, Sadia. Yeah, she's absolutely correct. It's not apt for a psychologist. And then Sadia goes on to say, it's too much for you because you're a cheap and entitled tramp. It's not a progression that is for free, especially when I'm viral on the internet, so I should be a charity case for people like you. Get out of here. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the real Sadia Khan there. That's mask off Sadia Khan. All of these comments, that's what it is. It's mask off Sadia. She has her public persona that you'll see on Lewis Howes, Chris Williamson, Soft White Underbelly, but the real her. So I've become an expert at seeing through some of this stuff, and the wizard sees a lot. Like I said, I'm a professional face reader, and I can see it. And her face is trickier. Her vibe gives her away more than her face. Angela, your live stream is starting earlier. Yes, it is today because I made a special exception to rip Sadia Khan here because of all the hubbub that was going on. But it was her vibe. She doesn't pass the vibe check, and she has that face where it could be callous, like one of those spoiled kinds of faces, like she's what's the word? Sort of like bratty. That's a good word for it. She's bratty. And notice she keeps on calling this girl tramp, entitled. Maybe it's projection by her, maybe. Maybe she's projecting. And she also likes to accuse people of watching animal porn. It's like, what is that all about? Is that a big thing in Dubai that I don't know about? That's where she is. So she keeps on accusing her of all of these belittling things. And she's trying to be as antagonistic as possible. And that's a cue with any narcissistic person. That's what they do. They're going to keep on trying to pepper you with little belittling remarks, subtle jabs, being antagonistic. And they'll pepper that into the language, as she did here constantly. Tramp, entitled, brokey. And meanwhile, the other person here is completely respectful, disagrees but is respectful, but not Sadia. Certainly not Sadia. So let's go back over these here again. So this was the beginning here. My ex is a narcissist is code for I have such a low self-esteem that I would rather be with someone who mistreats me than simply be single. And that, I could talk about this one thing for an hour. But basically, it's not even about low self-esteem, right? I do think once someone is out, sure, I'm all about practicing radical self-respect. I'm all about trying to look back at it in a way so we can learn something from it. There is something to learn and an opportunity in everything. But that doesn't mean it was your fault. And it doesn't mean that you're just some person that has low self-esteem that's going to just let someone treat you poorly because you're afraid to be single. And the way she's framing all of this is just empathyless. She just doesn't care. So I'm hoping people see through the Sadia Khan grift here. I'm hoping that people see the real her. And hopefully she has to pay the consequence. And ultimately also, I blame everyone that had her on their show because she was nobody. She was claiming to be a psychologist when she was not a psychologist. She has a bachelor's degree in something, but that is not a psychologist. She's a coach. She's a coach like me. And granted, I'm not bad talking coaches, not at all. I don't bad talk coaches. I don't bad talk people that don't have credentials either. My only problem was she's mislabeling herself. She's deceiving people into believing that she's a licensed professional when she's absolutely not. And then all of the people that had her on their show, they're basically enabling that by not doing their due diligence. Kevin says, I feel sorry for the good mental health professionals like you. There are so many that are still very sick, and there is the longest ending belief that's why they got in the business to fix themselves. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think a lot of people come to the therapist field or the helping people field because they don't want to work on themselves. They'd rather just help others. And it gives them a version of narcissistic supply to do so. And granted, it doesn't mean that they're always helping people is wrong. It doesn't mean they're like always hurting people, but it's best to do the work on yourself first, because when you do the work on yourself first, you're going to be more congruent. You're going to be more authentic and genuine, and you're going to be able to help people better. That would be my thinking. But how are you, Kevin? But people like her, their values are front and center. Money, getting what she wants, image. And granted, this is where her narcissism gets in the way, because she left all of these public comments on her page. And unless she's intentionally trying to be the bad guy and the villain, it's not going to help her image one bit. I just think that she couldn't help herself with her hypersensitivity to criticism and perceived criticism. And that's why narcissistic people, they lose it when someone disagrees with them, because they are hypersensitive to criticism and perceived criticism. They want their opinions mirrored back to them. That's the myth of narcissists. I shouldn't say myth, that's the legend of narcissists, where he falls in love with his image. They want that image reflected back to them. And that's something I'm going to go over with Dr. Salerno soon. The difference between a false self and a fake image. He had a video about that recently, and I think it's a great topic to expand upon. But when someone disagrees with her, they perceive that as an attack, and it can cause a narcissistic injury. And then what do? They lash out. They try to lash out and belittle whoever tried to disagree with them. And that's exactly what she did here. She lashes out, belittles them. They call it the grandiose omnipotent defense. So they will belittle others in a way that diminishes them while making themselves seem superior. So she's the wealthy person that's not a brokey, definitely not entitled, definitely not a tramp either. There are a lot healthier people that aren't even the profession, unlike her. Yes, you're absolutely right about that. And granted, and she's more of an egregious example here too, by the way. Not everyone's anywhere as close to as bad as she is, but she's out of control. Like, there's no emotional self-control there, because she just lashes out. Any kind of emotional self-control, you don't do that. You don't belittle the people that reach out to you in a respectful way. It's like, do you not realize people can just screenshot this stuff as they do? There's all sorts of receipts out there. The internet has a long memory. I mean, she could have just even gotten a burner account to do some of this. So, and part of that makes me think maybe she's just trying to be the villain, but that would be a charitable interpretation. I don't really think she is. But the interesting part about it is, I don't know how she got so popular so fast. Maybe it's just because of her face and she seemed charming. And then that British accent, the British accent gives people 10 IQ points in America's eyes, I think. Angela says, treating someone with a superior attitude is very narcissistic. Yes. Yes, it is. Especially when they want to belittle them and diminish them. There's no reason for that. And with guys, she calls guys ugly. She calls women ugly all the time too. Oh, my stuff's for attractive people. You wouldn't like it. You're too ugly. And she's just... You can smell the fraud and you can smell the grift from a mile away. And It's good to know. It gives me something to talk about here, that's for sure. And everyone's talking about her all over the internet here. I never liked her either, Cynthia. Kevin says, not being broke doesn't impress me one bit. It's just more capitalist commodity fetishism. Ah, see, now as a communist, Kevin, that's where communism is absolutely correct. Where capitalism is by definition exploitative. So when someone goes and is really successful financially, you better believe they've probably exploited their way a little bit. It's pretty difficult to not. Let's put it that way. It's pretty difficult to not, because that's what capitalism is. It's taking more than you pay out. Is what it is. Now, granted, we all have to play the game a little bit. I'm not saying don't play that game, because we all have to eat or we're going to be homeless. Grifters have to grift is right. They just can't help themselves. And there's nothing better. Social media is the best thing that's happened to grifters. Social media is the best thing that's happened to them because it's given them a platform to reach more people faster than ever before in human history. And this is something I talked about with Christian in my interview the other day. But he had said it's no measure of health to be well adjusted to a sick society. Yeah, that's basically what that means. It means, well, this is what happens when you get well adjusted to a sick society. You become exploitative. You become empathyless. You lack compassion. That's what happens. But how was your weekend, everyone? Kevin, Angela, Cynthia, Ellie. I'm also reaching out to some of the people that you had me reach out to in terms of the interviews too. We're going to see who comes back around. But yeah, so I wanted to make sure I brought attention to this. A lot of people also are, but I'll be disappointed if other big content creators still have her on their show. Because again, I blame them a little bit here too. She couldn't have gotten as popular without all of those other content creators' help. And that's where they got to do their due diligence. It's like, who are you having on your show? You're going to have a woman that calls herself a psychologist when they're not, and going to deceive people into thinking that she's some sort of mental health professional. And then I was watching a Playing with Fire video today, and he was saying she was wanting $5,000 to come on his show because she said, oh, I'm going to give you 20 times more exposure, so I'm worth the price. And by rule, I don't pay anyone to come on the show. That's against the spirit of what I do here. It's like, no, the payment is you get the exposure that I'll give you when I do the video and post all the clips to the other platforms. That's the payment. I'm not going to pay you $5,000 to come on my show. It's like, what? Keeping up with the Joneses, that'll get you in trouble, right? Ellie says, been trying to keep focused despite my environmental stresses here, Jared. How are you? It's been an interesting weekend here. It's been an interesting weekend. We'll put it to you like that. I've been a little spacey. Angela says, my weekend is regular so far. I still have to deal with a narcissistic family until no contact, but that's the goal. And then you got to use the tools. You got gray rock, you got yellow rock, you got biff, brief, informative, friendly, and firm. Remembering to not jade, justify, argue, defend, or explain. See them as the emotional 4-year-old or malfunctioning robot. That's the way to go. So ultimately, and you got an opportunity to work on being gaslighting proof too, which is if they say anything that really bothers you, you can examine why it bothers you and try to work on that. Cat Wild, how are you? Oh my God, I'm glad others have seen through her. I found her useful until she was victim blaming survivors, calling them insecure. It's true, but much more complicated and twisted than that. Yes, exactly right. And again, I don't disagree with everything she says. I just don't like how she treats people. I think she acts extremely childish and emotionally immature. Because, Kat, we went over this. So my ex is a narcissist is code for I have such low self-esteem that I would rather be with someone who mistreats me than simply being single. Like, that's absurd. That's absurd. Like, why even frame it like this? Like, what are you trying to benefit? You're trying to be antagonistic. You're trying to put others down. You're trying to bait them and provoke them. And then, when understandably people give her a little bit of a reaction, she calls out the reaction like it's the problem. You must be a brokey. You must be entitled. This is adult psychology here. You're a child. Just ridiculous. Experts like you are very helpful. Thank you very much. Thank you, Angela. Cat Wild says she was speaking to survivors in comments like dirt, and I got blocked for calling her out. Not surprising. And how it's about rich for her to say insecure when she's clearly had surgery. Correct. Her name is Sadia Khan, Kevin. Sadia Khan. Now, people are using in the thumbnail Sadia C-O-N, but it's really Sadia K-H-A-N. So yeah, she definitely has a fragile sense of self there. That's for sure. Because she's hypersensitive to criticism and perceived criticism. And again, I don't even begrudge her little filter there. I think how she's treating people in these comments is what is much worse. This is the bad part. This is her being absurd and childish. And if you're going to be helping people as a coach, you just need to be better than that. Especially on a public forum, you just need to be better than that. And so hopefully people see through it now. I'm sure there's going to be flying monkeys that still have her back, which is a good opportunity to talk about flying monkeys. What are they? The flying monkeys are people that are subscribed to a narcissist distorted version of reality. They are on the narcissist team, and they will often defend the narcissist at all costs. And you can fill in the blank with a guru here. It doesn't have to be a narcissist, but often the guru is narcissistic at the very least. And then the flying monkeys run around and they'll commit abuse by proxy. And they'll act like anyone who calls them out is the problem. Oh, you wouldn't have a problem with this unless there was a problem with you. And it's the built-in DARVO. Deny, accuse, reverse victim, and offender. You see it everywhere. Angela says, narcissists think that they are superior because they have money. She must be a narcissist. Well, as I said here, she admitted it. Means I'm a narcissist, and I'm glad I'm one, better than being a pathetic victim. And what's cool about this is my followers on Instagram, they got the receipts for me. They showed me this because they're smart. They took the screenshot, and this is something that she said on that post, but then she deleted this because she knows, but her emotions got the better of her. But rather be a narcissist than being a pathetic victim. Yes. Queen, the queen of antagonism. Because Kat, a while ago, I made a video called Sadia Khan, the queen of gaslighting, DARVO, and antagonism. YouTube didn't like that video. They demonetized it. She might be connected in some way to something. I'm not sure what she's connected to. But she's got, because she just blew up on the scene. And yeah, she's pretty, but I don't know if that explains it. And yeah, she could be articulate, but I also think it's that British accent thing. Americans are a sucker for a British accent. And you see this all over YouTube now, whether it's Moon or who else. Anyone that's narrating with a British accent, Americans just love it. I know, right? I'm glad we got the receipts here, Kat. We got the receipts. Angela says, it's not okay to be a victim, but narcissists are experts at playing the victim role. They absolutely are. Zara, she is connected to Tom Khan, who is then connected to Andrew Tate. I don't know who Tom Khan is. Is that any relation to Candace Owens? I mean, of course I know Andrew Tate, but not Tom. So they might have some Saudi oil money, or I hear she's Pakistani, is what I hear she is. But yeah, but Americans, I gotta help them out because they just can't help themselves. They think British accent, they must be super smart. They sound so sophisticated and articulate. It's like, no, that British accent just does a lot of heavy lifting for them. Chris Williamson's got that going for him. Moon has it going for him. Sadia here, Diary of a CEO. They blast on the scene. Also, in shows like Game of Thrones, it's the default old school accent. Didn't she do an interview with Andrew Tate? Yes, she did. I'm going to do a video soon about the Mount Rushmore of pick-me's. And a pick-me are the women who really try to play up to Team Man in the gender war. Sadia Khan will be one of them. Pearl, for those of you who know Pearl, she's also on the Mount Rushmore of pick-me's. And then there's the real femme sapien. And who else would I have? There's one more. Oh, Melanie King. She's the other one I'm going to put on the Mount Rushmore of pick-me's. Yeah, just got to watch out for those colonial Americans, imperialists. But as you know, Kevin, America's republic here is probably winding down. And what AI is going to do to it, I have no idea. But I think it's going to be a big thing. It's really going to change everything. I don't know what humans are going to do when AI takes over the work. Very often the rich people are why the rest of the country is poor. Yes. Because not everyone can win, right? In capitalism, there's winners and there's losers. It's rare that everyone wins. And that's just been true throughout all of humans' history. Now, there are some places where the bottom is higher. Places like the Nordic countries, for example. The bottom is higher because they have more social safety nets. But they don't really have that in America. If it wasn't for FDR, there would be very few. And if there wasn't for Teddy Roosevelt, there would still be monopolies and people would be working 80-hour work weeks. And I think Henry Ford is the one who revolutionized the 9-to-5, and people were mad at him in the present. They said, oh, that bastard Henry Ford. It's like, well, you can say that until you realize it was an improvement from the 70-hour work week or the 60-hour work week. So that was a little better. But that's just the game. That's just the game. And I think that's where morals and values need to come into play. Even Nixon said that in the 70s, and the founding fathers said it too. Without morals, without values, capitalism will go out of control. And we're seeing some of that today. And then granted, I don't know if socialism or communism would be better systems in practice. We haven't seen it, if so. But there's going to be problems with all of them. But I don't see a reason why we shouldn't be having some universal health care in America. There's no reason for that. Considering where all the money is spent, they would rather spend money on foreign wars. They would rather give money to Ukraine or Israel, which I can't get behind that. Like, why do we care about that? Shouldn't we be giving our people health care first? Just so people aren't dying off because? I think, and that's a common sense policy. Most people, Republican, Democrat, whatever, could get behind that. There's really only some people who wouldn't. Many of the content creators you mentioned are under the same management. I advise you to look into Andrew Tate. Tom Khan is connected to the Kinahans. One of them was arrested in Dubai. Well, I'm not surprised about that at all. I'm not sure what their end goal is, because even on the right now, there's all sorts of fractioning, because there's pro-Israel, anti-Israel fractioning on the right. And most of the left is, I guess, pro-Palestinian at the least. Angela, people are poor for many reasons, like low education or laziness. Nobody can blame rich people and play the victim. Nobody deserves to receive free things from the government. I don't know if I buy that. I think it's not just like there can be laziness, but at the same time, when you look at the wealthy, what they do, they make it more and more difficult for everyone to succeed because they hoard the wealth, they hoard the opportunities. Even in inheritance, they give their kids just a head start so they don't even have to work. Yeah, I could see that, Angela. Angela Ramsey, welcome. So, granted, I'm not for laziness, but I do think there should be some government safety nets. Angela Ramsey says, I believe she is connected. She has contradicted herself across time and platforms. I'm British. Her accent is faux privileged. Her real accent, which leaks through, is Southern English. Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that. But like I said, I'm disappointed at all of the creators that had her on. They didn't do their due diligence. They were all just, what were they doing? They were putting money and views over everything. All they were thinking was, oh, she's going to give me some views. It's going to be a good guest. It'll make me some money, get me some attention. Who cares what kind of character she has? Who cares if she's a good person or not? Who cares if she's really a psychologist? Not them. So that's where people should give them a little bit of grief too. Because there's a line. It's one thing if you have them on to debate them. It's another thing if you have them on to just nod in agreement. I would say, I mean, there are probably people who are lazy, but I don't think that is ultimately the cause of a lot of it. I think a lot of it is there's a lot of things that are out of people's control. So much of who you are as a person is out of your control because you don't choose your parents, you don't choose your genes, you don't choose your face, you don't choose how tall you are, you don't choose your intelligence. There's a lot of things you don't choose. So, and there's a lot of people that were born on third base and think they hit a triple. And that's not necessarily true too. But granted, I think the combination of, yeah, I'm for personal responsibility. I'm for radical self-respect and accountability. Absolutely. But I also recognize there's some BS in the system too. I think you can call out both of those things. And the political system right now, they want you to think it's one or the other. You can either blame the system or you practice radical self-respect and personal responsibility. But no, you can do both. You can call out the BS. Have you ever asked yourself why all of these content creators have nearly same looking videos? They are mostly working together or are using some people to create their videos. Yeah, I could see that. Because what is YouTube? It's a business. I mean, YouTube is a business. Creating is a business. And they're trying to play that game. To consider how children in China help each other out in the classroom. Nobody falls behind. I guess they have more of a collective attitude in China. You can't blame rich people for having a narcissistic family who are constantly sabotaging your success. I don't follow what you mean by that, Angela. You can't blame rich people for having a narcissistic family. No, it's not. That's not rich people's fault. That's just another aspect of it. The point of that is there's things going on in everyone's life that there's different variables. So just like the person who's born into a trust fund or a wealthy inheritance, they did nothing to earn that. That's just something their parents did. But having narcissistic parents, now granted, someone with a trust fund can also have narcissistic parents, but narcissistic parents, they kind of set their kids behind a lot of times. It's just something to overcome. And people that don't have that, it's not something to overcome. But at the end of the day, and this is where I would part ways with some of the people on the left is, yes, I can call out people, but ultimately I have more faith in myself and I want to do what I can on my side of the street. So I am more individualistic in that way, where I do that. That's where I put my actions. I put them on my side of the street. But I do that in my life, but I recognize there's certainly some BS out there too. No doubt there is. This is true, Kevin. I agree. I think the big thing right now is, Well, Angela says, you can't blame rich people or the government for your bad luck. Narcissistic parents are the reason why the society is dysfunctional. It wouldn't be about blaming. I think, here's what I would think. I think there's just a lot of work out there right now that you look at Walmart, Amazon, McDonald's, fast food places. There's a lot of people that can work hard, but you're not necessarily going to make good money just because you're working hard. You have to work hard in the right areas, or you're going to be spinning your wheels. That's what I would say. And there used to be a time when in the 50s, for example, they would take care of people where you could have like a good job and a pension, and only one person needed the work, and women stayed home a lot of times, and that's all that was needed. But you couldn't do that today. And you couldn't do that today for multiple reasons. The workforce is doubled, if not quadrupled in size. And people need dual incomes now. So it's just different. Yeah, there's an expression that I agree with, which is, if you're not angry, you're not paying attention. And the more you dig, and so Angela, what I would say for you, if you listen to everyone, you'll eventually see the BS that comes. So I listen to everyone from all sides. I listen to Republicans, conservatives, progressives, leftists, socialists. I listen to everyone. And when you listen to everyone, you get all the information there is. It doesn't mean you're going to agree with them all, but at least you know as much of the info as you can know. And I think that's important. Because if you only listen to one side, you're getting some lies of omission. And that's some half-truths. And that's where the narcissism tactics come in. You see this all of the time on mainstream media. You see this all of the time with content creators too. They'll tell you parts of the story because they're trying to manipulate how you see the stories. They're trying to manipulate how you see the world. Angela Ramsey says, her being outed is bigger than the current drama. Hopefully, it highlights the holes in the podcast formula. The experts may just be pretenders. It's less educational and mostly entertainment. Yes, I would agree with that. There's a lot of what they would call kayfabe. And kayfabe is, whether it's the red pill world or dating or politics, a lot of it's just, and it shouldn't be, but they've just turned a lot of this into entertainment because we have this system where all it takes to make money is attention and eyeballs on you. That's all it takes. It doesn't matter if you have any integrity. It doesn't matter if you're living by any morals or values. Those eyeballs are what matters. So people don't care how they do it. People just do it any way they can. And then the system rewards them. So when the system rewards people doing stuff like that, how can we be surprised when there's more of those kinds of people? That's what I talked about with Christian. That's what I talked about with Anthony. Welcome to the jungle is right. Axl Rose agrees. Angela says narcissistic parents, well, actually Kevin says first, the government is responsible for society. Now, I would agree with that too. I think a good leader should take extreme ownership of everything under their command. I also believe the same with individuals too, but both of those things can be true at the same time. I think the government should, and individuals should. The lines would be, where is the government going too far? I'm not sure. Angela says narcissistic parents don't deserve honor and respect. The biblical principles are only for normal people. Do you agree with me? Yeah, I mean, narcissistic parents who mistreat you, I don't want anyone to stay in a situation like that. I tell people to leave situations like that or go least amount of contact necessary. My mom stayed home or I would have been a complete criminal. I see. Zara says the experts on YouTube are nothing else than people who want to earn money because they don't want to do normal jobs. That's a big part of it. Now, yours truly has not worked a normal job in almost a year, and it's gone okay, but it's borderline because I'm certainly not rich. Kevin Toohey, which type make it hard to unite with any of the right wing, but it is so necessary? Which type make it hard to unite with any of the right wing? What do you mean by that? Which type of what? Just people in general? But everyone should watch creators online with a pinch of salt, or watch with a grain of salt, whatever it's called, because a lot of them are just throwing crap up against the wall to see what sticks. Smith Cynthia says, I'll never forget Sadia meeting Andrew Tate, another narcissist, and she just unraveled. She lost her cool completely. And do you mean she was being a pick-me and really liked him, or did he trigger her? Cat Wild Jared seems genuine, though. There's a lot of online coaches who are snakes. Thank you, Cat. I try to be. It's important for me to have integrity. I wouldn't be able to live with myself. I'm not very good at being fake. I'm not very good at acting, or at least acting in my real life. I've been actually in commercials before, and I was in a movie before too, but in this is different. Like, I just wouldn't be able to, it doesn't sit well with me. But some people, they got no problems with it. You can lie and manipulate your narcissistic parents until you escape from home. That's the right thing to do. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I call it manipulating, but it's just protecting yourself. You do what you have to protect yourself and then get out of there. She sat with Andrew Tate and Tom and was an absolute fangirl. The pick-me. Yeah, so she's the quote-unquote high-value woman. That's the side chick. And, I mean, she's talking to that fiance like, I can have your man whenever I want. It's like, imagine if some girl or woman was telling Sadia that in the comments. What would Sadia say to that woman? Kevin says, Jared, you seem one of the best in your field when I watched your videos, but when I saw you live, I knew you were real. You see? Thank you, sir. That's why it's important to me, I think, to go live, because you see more of my personality as opposed to just my monologues, because that's what shorts are, that's what the longer form recorded videos are. To a lesser extent, the interviews, but when I'm just live like this is me. A lot of people don't go live, and you can notice that. And I think they don't go live because they're afraid of what they might say. Cat Wild says, how did people find out she's a side chick? There's an audio. Now, granted, you could always be careful because there is AI now, but there's an audio of the fiance calling Sadia, and then Sadia telling her that, like, I don't care. I could S your fiance's D whenever I want. I could do it on your wedding day. And it sounds exactly like Sadia. And she has not said it was not right. She did not say that wasn't me. Andrew Tate thinks that women are inferior. I think he says that. Yes. I don't know if he really believes it. He might just be playing a game with that too. But he definitely, because that's what Andrew Tate does. He half plays a character, and then you don't quite know what part's the character and what part is him, just kind of what is really him. That's what he did to get famous, right? He's playing his like troll-like character. He was actually Tom Segura in Your Mom's House. That was his big breakout. And people thought he was a stand-up comedian, basically. And then he kind of has plausible deniability, which is sneaky. A lot of people have plausible deniability. They get away with a lot. You're a sunflower. I agree, Kat. Sunflower says they are voice notes. Yes, that's what it was, voice notes. But it sounds like her, doesn't it? I can't deny it sounded exactly like her. And that's just calling out her hypocrisy, that she's going to talk about being a high value woman and then being a proud side chick. Like, give me a break. And just being obnoxious and antagonistic. Okay, that woman's getting cheated on with Sadia. And she said, "Welcome to Sadia." Yes, he was literally an online PIMP. Definitely was. So, and granted, it's one thing if a woman wants to be a side chick, I don't really care. But it's, if you're going to market yourself as this, only people with high self-esteem do this, only people with who are high value do that, and then you do that, doesn't seem too congruent to me. Kind of shows some double standards and hypocrisy, if you ask me. And again, and the $8,000 an hour part, I just wouldn't be able to stomach that. And again, people will say you're worth what you say you're worth, but there's also a level in there too where, when are you exploiting? When are you using people? And I think once you get to a certain place, that's what you're doing. You're using them. You're exploiting them. Zara says, ever wonder who is paying all these coaches so much money? Who has so much money for a 1-hour call? So my guess, Zara, would be in Dubai, there's probably some wealthy dudes that really just want to get laid. And they think, oh, Sadia will help me do that. Sunflower says, even Jay Shetty is a fraud like her. Yes, I agree. He is. I really don't like him, actually. Majority them lie about their posts, their pasts, and pretend to be someone else on the internet. That's exactly right. Kevin Toohey says, exactly. If I had $8,000 to pay somebody for non-financial advice, I would think I already made it. And you would be correct. You would be correct. And I think the wealthy people, they just don't care. They just want to throw their money around. You see the same thing in America with how people treat their pets. Maybe they got a pet horse, or they want to have a best in show dog. They'll spend a lot of money on their hobbies because that money burns a hole in the money burns a hole in their pocket. Andrew Tate said, you are gay if you are a woman's best friend, because Andrew doesn't have anything in common with women. Yeah, he's trolling. He's trolling when he does that. He probably has freaking women friends, and he's trolling. My guess is money laundering. That's always a possibility. Jay Shetty is a liar and gives me the creeps. Yeah, he's just one of these, him, maybe some Grant Cardone. Who's another one? I don't know. That whole little podcasting era, it's like I learned from some of the guests, but some of them have that grifty tone, the grifty vibe. And they all have the same guests on over and over again. Dr. Romney has made the circuit on those podcasts. She's been on Lewis Howes. She's been on Diary of a CEO. She's probably been on Jay Shetty. Oh, no, it's the other one, the girl, the pick me girl. Not pick me, let them. What's her name? What's the let them girl? What the hell's her name? It's me. Cynthia says, yes, she was a total fangirl. Hilarious. Pearl's another one. But who's the girl that says let them? The let them theory. What's her name? I can't remember. Oh, I know. I know what you're saying. There's big groups, and sometimes they're NGOs, or sometimes maybe they have there it is, Mel Robbins, that's the one. But there's people that maybe are conservative. Maybe they're Islam. Maybe they're Muslim. Maybe they're Jewish. Maybe they're progressive. Maybe they're whatever. But they have their people that they want to promote because they know who people watch. It influences how they think and how they act. And all over now on YouTube, you see this. And so they're funded. But that's how important this stuff is. Like, this stuff shapes public opinion. So even this last presidential election in America, when Trump goes on Theo Von, Joe Rogan, Andrew Schultz, Lex Friedman, You better believe that influenced the election. I think Kamala probably should have went on Joe Rogan's too. Probably would have given her a better shot. Would have made her seem more relatable. Because instead she just went on that one, I can't remember the name, the Democrat podcast with the women. I can't remember. Yeah, of course they are. Because it's all about propaganda. It's all about getting your message out there because they want to influence how other people live their lives. And that's something I've never really bought into. I've never bought into trying to get everyone to live the way I live. But that's what a lot of religious people do. And not just religious people, people that really believe in some sort of system of government too sometimes. They just want everyone to think and feel how they do about certain things. And granted, the bigger the group, the harder it is to get more people to agree. In smaller societies, it was easier. Look at Native Americans in America. They had all smaller communities, and I think they were one with the land back then. But don't get it twisted either. They were not peaceful beings. They warred with other tribes all the time, and they were pretty brutal as well. Angela, easy, 8298% will never come close to Andrew's money. Young boys admire Tate for his money. I think the young boys, I think they like Tate because he just basically has no filter. And there hasn't been, and this is where the left has kind of let boys down a little bit. There's no one really talks to them. Like there's a lot of stuff for minorities and women. But as far as boys go, they've kind of dropped the ball on them. So it's left a vacuum. But there's some guys that I think they should look up to. I would like somebody like Jocko, or who else even these days? I mean, even Chris Williamson's not bad. Who else? Man Talks podcast. I like him. Melody, how are you? Thank you for calling her out. She sucks so bad. You could say that again. There are some of that, Kat. There is some of that. There are some. No, me personally, I was never taught to hate women. But there are some people that I guess are. G to G, we'll see if you're still in here. All right, Ellie. You have a good one, miss. Infrared the guy on Kick. I said I wouldn't stop yelling. He's left, but he's acting very right wing. Who's that? Infrared. I have to check that person out. Andrew Tate is charismatic, and he could reach many people in pandemic where people spend a lot of time on social media. Yes, you're correct about that. Kat, you might be disappointed if you saw that happen, because I don't know if Dr. Romney would call her out to her face. They might be playing the influencer game more than the say the right thing. Like, I try to say the right thing. I try to say what I think is true. But in some of those podcasting circuits, it's not really about that. It's not really about what's true or what's accurate. It's more about what's going to get us the most eyeballs, what's going to get us the most money and attention. But if Dr. Romney was being honest, I think she would say what I just said. Because there's really no defending what Sadia did. The only way to defend what she did would be to say, okay, yes, I agree. I don't even like that Dr. Romney has involvement with that red table talk. Who's part of the red table? Is that Mel Robbins, or is that Will Smith's wife? Or is that someone else? Will Smith's wife, she's another character. I could do some breakdowns on her. Kat, Dr. R is good, but she's a freaking lawyer. She will never play her hand. They are all very wise that way. Yes, you're probably correct about that, Kevin. Jada Pinkett, that's the one. She's wild. Angela, you are absolutely correct. HG Tudor, the anonymous HG Tudor, he's the right man for the job. Maybe I should invite him back on so we can talk about this. Also, I've been thinking about, if I try to get HD Tutor and Dr. Salerno on at the same time. Although it might be too much of a clash because they're just different spheres, right? Like HD Tutor is doing his thing. I don't think it wouldn't clash well with Dr. Salerno. Lawyers aren't taught to be dishonest per se, but their motto is don't volunteer information. Correct. I've interviewed him, Kat, a couple times. I think he did it himself, though. Well, somewhere he has a Gmail account or whatever email address to start this, so he's somebody. I couldn't tell you who. I don't see him. When I've spoken to him, I don't see him. Oh, I've never heard Red Table Talk disclaimer. Yeah, they talk about drama, some gossip, some current events. Well, I like what Maynard said from Tool. Liar, lawyer, show me what's the difference. Good question, right? Because that's the thing. How do you be a defense lawyer when you know someone's guilty and maybe they've harmed children or they've harmed someone else? How do you in good conscience defend that person if you know they're guilty? I mean, in law, I guess somebody has to, but how do you sleep at night doing that? I don't know. That's a moral gray area, if you ask me. But I mean, and defense lawyers are needed though too, because sometimes innocent people get accused and sometimes innocent people get convicted. And so that's a problem. I mean, there's been people on death row that have been executed that have been innocent. They don't find out till later. You are correct about that, Angela. They absolutely will. Those dollars make their conscience sleep a little easier at night, is what I would say. But to reiterate here what we were talking about, Sadia ripping apart victims of narcissistic abuse is just unnecessary. But you know what I've noticed? There's narcissistic people, they really dislike it when people try to help the victims. They can't stand it. And so the other thing you'll see a lot of narcissistic people say is, NPD is so rare. It's like, well, is it really that rare? Because I would say it's 5 to 6% of the population. And in America, that's 20 million people. I mean, how rare is 20 million people? And I also don't think they're never going to know. They're never going to know how many people truly have NPD because most people don't ever get diagnosed. But when people get triggered by my content, usually it's because they feel called out. Oh, I do that behavior he's talking about that he's saying a narcissist does. And then I'll say, oh, NPD is so rare. You know that, right? But really what they're doing is they're trying to minimize a very real issue. And they're trying to get me to shut up. But this is what narcissistic people do. They get annoyed hearing about this stuff. And then they'll act like Sadia here. Oh, you must have low self-esteem. They have to belittle you. They have to put you down. They have to diminish you. And it's just how they roll. There are a lot undiagnosed narcissists out there. Yes, there are. First thought lawyers was a big capitalist problem. Come to find out there are Chinese lawyers. Ah, interesting. I did not know that. Have you ever heard Sadia talking about her dad's first wife who is still married to him and ignored while her mother is his favorite? She has no empathy. Oh, so her father had multiple wives. Interesting. I did not hear that part. But to go over again what we were saying, my ex is a narcissist is code for I have such low self-esteem that I would rather be with someone who mistreats me than simply be single. And again, their ex is a narcissist, which means they saw through it. It means they're not with them anymore. Not every narcissist, especially if you're not familiar with narcissism And especially when you're younger, and especially if you had a narcissistic parent, you're not always going to know. But that's the other thing narcissistic people try to do. They'll try to make it seem like it's so obvious. Oh, everyone should see it so clearly. It's like, not always. Like, not always. Like, in retrospect, you can see, but before you have been forced to become aware, you're not going to see it all the time, especially if you had a narcissistic parent. So when they belittle people like this and diminish them and be antagonistic, there's just no reason for it. But they can't help themselves. They love to make it seem like the victim is the one that is the problem. There's definitely something wrong with them, or they have to be guilty of something. Or the other one they'll say is, well, everyone has some narcissistic traits. And when they say it like that, I kind of think it's disingenuous, because I think what they mean is anyone can do toxic behaviors. Anyone can be a little bit selfish. Anyone can be a little sensitive to criticism. But to the degree they are, it's not even in the same league as someone who is a full-blown narcissist. It's not even close. So to me, they're doing that to try to share the blame. Oh, where's your accountability? It's like, shut up. Baby Codependence Anonymous is where they jump out to help victims. Who? Regardless of why someone is with someone, the abuse by the narcissist is actually the issue. Amen, say it again. And no one deserves to be abused. It's never justified. But people like Sadia here, that's what they skip. They skip that part. They skip calling out the narcissist. They skip calling out the abuser. And they skip straight to this. It just means you have low self-esteem. Why? Like, why do you need to be a jerk about it? Like, if anything, if you have any compassion, if you have any empathy, you give the victims validation, support, and encouragement. And you do that for them at first. And then you work with them. And over time, you can get them to take a look at their side of the street too, because I don't want to do them the disservice of saying, nope, like there's nothing to work on. No, there's things to work on with all of us. And I want to make it so that people are the least likely they'll ever get victimized again. But you don't do that right away. And you don't do that like a jerk. Like, you don't do what she's doing. That's like when you don't have any emotional intelligence or social intelligence, you say what Sadia did here. Narcissists would rather abuse someone than be alone. Yes, they would. Well, they use, exploit, and control. That's the name of the game for them. It is sad and frightening, Kevin. You are correct. Nakamoto, welcome. I used to get drawn by her beauty too, how gracefully she carries herself. I think part of that also is just that British accent, honestly. And she sounds smooth, but she also contradicts herself a lot. Zara says, I have a friend who is working with toddlers, and she is saying that giving away kids to strangers below 3 years is creating narcissism. I don't know if she's right. So here's my opinion on that. As per my discussions with Dr. Salerno, I think in order to truly have a narcissistic operating system, you have to have that genetic component of narcissism. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have some learned behavior narcissism. You might get some trauma that can give you some learned behaviors, because you can have a narcissistic parent and you might not have that genetic component of narcissism. But you could also get some narcissistic fleas where you can act similar to that. But narcissistic fleas is not the same as the full-blown operating system. Not the same. So my thinking is, it can't help. It can give maybe an abandonment wound when someone's below 3. But I don't think that's enough to create a personality disorder, if that makes sense. Kat says, it seems Sadia has low self-esteem to try and take someone else's man, that she can't build her own worth alone or with an available man. I would say, I would agree with that. I think she's being selfish, and she's clearly okay just being on the side, bragging about it even. A proud side chick. Nakamoto says, then she started to be pretty aggressive towards anyone who has different opinions with her, and that's how I started to send something off. That's exactly right. That's exactly how I noticed it too. You see how she handles people that disagree with her, people that call her out, and she was not very good at that at all. And she does all the things that I would say a narcissist would do when they get called out, when they get disagreed with. That's what she was doing. Kevin says, the facts for often recognized quickly in Alcoholics Anonymous and distanced a little bit. I mean, AA does certainly help people. I'm a fan of the program. Zara says, Kat, I believe she has no problems being side chick because she saw it at home. Yeah, and that very well could be. That very well could be. I mean, honestly, I don't care if she's a side chick, right? That's not the part to me that is really the issue. How she's treating victims, to me, is really the issue. And the issue is, with her being a side chick, it's hypocritical. It's a hypocritical thing if she's going to be touting and going on about being a high-value woman, and then to do that, that doesn't make sense to me. That's a double standard, if you ask me. Because then she said this too. And about that, the key word is X. You built so much of your following off narcissistic content. What does that say about you? Building your survivors just to bring them down was such a heinous insult. Sounds pretty narky to me. Means I'm a narcissist, and I'm glad I'm one. Better than being a pathetic victim. Ridiculous. Zara says, genetics are definitely playing a huge role, but there must be a reason in the rise of narcissism. And you know what? Someone on Instagram wants me to talk about this, and I will. I'll probably do a new video about it, but the cliff notes would be, it's like what I said earlier. When society is rewarding narcissistic behaviors, you don't have to be a full-blown narcissist to have narcissistic behaviors. So when society is rewarding it, and let's face it, it gets rewarded in the dating world too. So you get money rewarding it and sexual opportunity rewarding it. How can we be surprised when there's more of it? There's just no reason to be surprised. That's why. And now we have more outlets for it too. We have social media. We have YouTube. We have TikTok. We have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Snapchat. These are all vehicles to get narcissistic supply. These are all vehicles to get the 3 A's: attention, admiration, and acknowledgement. Right. How she's treating others with different ideas that she has on herself. She's been attacking others so much on the comments. Exactly right. And it's ridiculous. Kat says, yes, Zara. Yes, that's my thoughts on that. Does anyone know if she's lost a lot of her following for her posts? No, I don't think she has, actually. I think she's actually gotten more. Sadly. Well, there's people out there, a lot of narcissistic people, they like what she said. And that's what I've noticed as well. Some of the flying monkeys, you can look at their face and you're like, you can tell something's not quite right. But narcissistic people, they love that message. They love that. And considering how many narcissistic people there are, it can't be surprising. It can't be surprising there's a fair amount of people that like that. Trouble connecting to earphones. Uh-oh. The society is very narcissistic because most people are very superficial. Yeah, there's a big element of that. I think it's also Pavlov's dogs. What's getting rewarded? So the more you exploit and the more you put yourself out there for attention and the more money you get, that's being rewarded. You don't need a narcissistic operating system to do those narcissistic behaviors. You can just have narcissistic fleas. And I do think there's a difference between environmental created narcissism versus the full-blown narcissistic operating system. And I think, and that's that guy Christian's problem with the the 9 traits of narcissism in the DSM, you can do those behaviors, even prolonged, and what's the word Dr. Salerno says? Persistent and pervasive. Yes. And you can probably do all of that and not even have a narcissistic operating system. You just have the environmental version of narcissism. That's different than the full-blown narcissistic operating system. That's the one, Richard Grannon did a video about this the other day, but I think he was really just parroting what Dr. Salerno has said, the brain image, neuroimaging, where narcissists have deficiencies in the brain, less gray matter in the areas of the brain responsible for empathy. That's part of the narcissistic operating system. And when you go by the traits of narcissism, and that's all you're being diagnosed by, the empathy someone has is going to be on a scale. They don't all have 0, but most of them are going to have impaired empathy. But I guess it's possible for some of them to not have as much impaired empathy. But then again, if they're going to be doing narcissistic behaviors, then you, by definition, have to have at least an impairment, I would say. Gave up. It's hard to find people who accept that their family is narcissistic. Well, there's more and more people now that see it. There's a lot of awareness. And now I see the opposite. I see narcissistic parents getting upset that so many kids have gone no contact. Now, as Dr. Salerno and I did mention, it is possible for the children to be narcissistic too. That's possible. I'm not saying that's what it is every time. Absolutely not. Sarah says, Sadia won't go down. I don't believe she is living off of her coaching money. She has other incomes, and there are enough people who support her. I would say, well, there is something fishy about how she got so popular so fast anyway. And that's where she might have been promoted, or she might have been a plant from somebody. Because these algorithms, on a meta note here, these algorithms are super powerful. They determine so much. They determine who makes a living off of YouTube. They determine what information gets out there. They determine what people are seeing. Control the algorithm, you can control the world. So whoever helped her along, they got a lot of pull, whoever it is. Welcome back, Ellie. Queen says, if journalists are watching, they could cover this soon, BBC, Daily Mail, etc., which could be very damaging for her image. Also, a lot of her behavior goes against ethics and law regarding psychology. Yes, I would agree. Kat says, Jared, I hope it's okay to ask this. I think you mentioned you have a history of drugs, alcohol. Did you find you lacked empathy when you took drugs? I would certainly say it gets impaired. Absolutely. And I think in AA and NA they say, I know they say, that addiction is a disease of total self-centeredness. And when someone's totally self-centered, that does not go hand in hand with empathy. But that's part of what the 12 steps are supposed to help people with, to develop a lack of selfishness, to have more humility, more honesty, and to be able to have some self-awareness and self-reflect. Take note of how your behaviors impact others, how your words impact others. So some of that's teaching cognitive empathy, but also the drugs can impair your feeling of empathy. But often when you stop the drugs, the feelings of empathy can come back. Unless you're a full-blown narcissist, then probably not. The best they can do is a cognitive empathy at that point. I call it the Luton connection. I know Luton. That's where Tate's from, right? The Taliban are also very active in financing and using content creators in UK. I wonder why. Are they pushing the Muslim Brotherhood or something? Islam? Kat says, I asked because my ex is autistic and smokes a lot of weed and is extremely abusive when high and reckless. That's weird with weed, right? Because I would think, like, if I smoke weed, I get extremely self-conscious. And I think about all the things that I do like how I'm a bad person. And it's very uncomfortable. And I couldn't imagine being abusive on weed. But that being said, I know some narcissists who smoke weed all day, and it doesn't seem to help them at all. It doesn't seem to help them be less abusive. It doesn't seem to help them be less of a jerk. And that's my thinking with narcissists and psychedelics as well. So how did you decide to stop? Were you just fed up of the lifestyle, taking drugs? Well, yes, I would say the consequences become too much. I got in trouble with the law. I got in trouble with a lot of things, and eventually crashed a lot of cars. And I said enough was enough. And then I realized over the years, once I had stopped, like the reason why I had an issue. I was undiagnosed autistic, and I had severe anxiety. I've also had several concussions. I don't know how much that impacts things or not. Probably didn't help. But I was always just trying to self-medicate that anxiety because I was just so insecure. And there was something physical going on because whenever I drank, whenever I did a benzo, whenever I did an opiate, the anxiety would go away. But if I didn't have that, I just hardly could function, and the ceiling of my potential became much lower. And that's why I take all of the supplements I take today, because it helps me. I wouldn't be able to do this probably if I didn't have my routine, or I probably could. It would just wouldn't go as smoothly. We'll put it like that. My ex would have moments being vulnerable of sweet smoking weed, but mainly he would lash out and be abusive for even suggesting he was high, which he always was. Yeah, that's the hypersensitivity to criticism and perceived criticism. Zara, I'm glad you stopped by, Zara. It seems like there's more people here also for this daytime live, so maybe on the weekends I'll do more during the day. You have a good one, Zara. All good, Kat. But yeah, I mean, let me ask you this, though. If he wasn't abusive on weed, would you really care? Or is it just the fact that he was abusive that made it a problem? I guess that depends, right? Because it all depends how it impacts their life. Like some people, maybe it doesn't impact their life too badly. Maybe they still have empathy and they're okay. But other people, now, for example, my uncle, he bike rides 50 miles to 70 miles a day. He used to run 10 miles a day, but he has 3 Budweisers every night. And for him, there was never a problem. Like he never got drunk, but he would have his 3 Budweisers a night. But for other people, those 3 Budweisers a night could make them a jerk. It could make them into some sort of asshole. And that wouldn't be very good at all. So it just depends. Some of it depends. It depends on how it impacts people. But Kat, I would say if that's how he reacts when being called out, sounds like it's a good thing he's an ex. How about that? All right, everybody. Unless you guys have any more questions, I might wrap this one up here for now. But I wanted to make sure I got my thoughts out here about Miss Sadia. Not my favorite Sadia Khan. Someone called me out on Instagram and said, you shouldn't be calling her out. You should be inviting her to debate her. And I would say, yeah, you know what? I would debate her. I would debate her on this all day, every day. And you know what? She wouldn't come on. I guarantee you she wouldn't come on because she knows I'm right. I know a guy who had a problem with heroin. He replaced that drug with alcohol to survive. He has been sober for 6 years, but he told me he has still problems with perfectionism. Yeah, makes sense. Perfectionism. I bet you he's got more problems than that. Perfectionism is just a mild way to put things. Kat says it was a problem because he was abusive when high, but also as he was extremely reckless, impatient, irritable, and mean to his nonverbal child when he smoked, anything that challenged his ego. And yeah, that's a problem. That's definitely a problem. Of course, Ellie, I'm always happy to see you stop by the chat here. And you got it, Kat. Thank you for this live, taking the time to answer, and for calling out Sadia. We could call out Sadia all day. Check out on Instagram, if you guys are on Instagram too, at goob_u2. He's the one who started this, and he's the one who brought out that voice note of Sadia saying, I could S your husband's or fiance's D whenever I want. It's like, wow. Why are you bragging about that? I try to go live 3 to 4 times a week. I think this is my 3rd or 4th time this week. You got it, Angela. I appreciate all your comments on the videos too, Angela. And same with you, Kat. And same with you, Ellie. It's always a pleasure. But I'm trying to do, 3 to 4 times a week. Sometimes the days vary, but I'm trying to do more of a set schedule so people can know when to expect me. And I'm also going to keep on doing the interviews too. And anyone who has suggestions for me to interview, I'm all ears for that as well. All right, everybody. We'll rock and roll for now. Over and out.